Thank you. My name is Jeff Tu, and I represent General Motors Research. I would like to spend the next half an hour sharing with you some of our perspective, General Motors' perspective from a research point of view on globalization. If I may, I'd like to take the liberty to walk around a little bit. I first want to thank all the sponsoring organizations and this fabulous institute, and in particular Professor M.R. Rao, for hosting such a wonderful event as this and inviting me to come and talk. It's quite an honor. There are two books that everybody's reading now. We can guess what they are, right? One of them is the Da Vinci Code, right? And the other one I happen to have with me, which is, I'm sure most people must be familiar with this, The World is Flat. And no matter where I go in the airports around the world, this year at least, the chances are great that the person sitting next to me is reading one of these two books. So I wanted to share just a couple quick quotes from this book by Thomas Friedman, which is most fascinating. The first quote is, "Most companies build offshore factories not simply to obtain cheaper labor for products they want to sell in America or Europe. Another motivation is to serve that foreign market without having to worry about trade barriers and to gain a dominant foothold there, particularly a giant market like China's." There are other reasons, is the point he's making, for globalization and the outsourcing. Outsourcing is a term that I actually don't like too much. What we're in the process of doing is changing the world in a small way through globalization. And that's what I want to talk about today in the globalization of technology. More to that point, a second quote I want to read to you is later on in the book, Friedman's talking about Microsoft's research facility in Beijing. Microsoft has 3 research facilities worldwide, one in Cambridge, Redmond, Washington, of course, and then in Beijing, China. And it goes on into some detail in terms of how they went about hiring the talent and then developing the talent and the number of patents and value contribution to the company that their Beijing office research division is providing them. Just a short quote here. "Microsoft is a stronger American company for being able to attract all this talent," said Lee, who's the director of the Microsoft Research Organization in Beijing. "Now we have 200 more brilliant people building intellectual property and patents. These 200 people are not replacing people in Redmond. They're doing new research in areas applicable worldwide." There's a lot of fear about globalization. We're at a position where we can continue on the path that seems to me most logical of developing global markets and advancing technology worldwide for the betterment of people everywhere. Or as a people, we can retrench and allow our fears to drive a protectionist sort of thinking. We need to break down the barriers between us and them. And that's really what I want to focus on in my talk today regarding how do we build a global R&D network. So when I talk about multinational sourcing, what I'm talking about is a lot of people, there's a lot written and talked about regarding sourcing of particular components or particular types of work, jobs, that sort of thing. What I'm really talking about is the technology. And again, how we globalize this. I work for a manufacturing organization, arguably the world's largest manufacturing company, General Motors. We are a global company. We've been a global company for over 80 years in many ways. I think what we're starting to learn to do, though, in a very real sense in more recent years, is to begin to act and learn and behave like a global company, which I don't think we've really done in many cases in the past. Certainly not the way that we are doing now. Manufacturing. What's the single most powerful attribute in manufacturing for today and the future? Flexibility. Flexibility. Geographic flexibility, product flexibility, sourcing flexibility, technology flexibility. What are the power systems that are going to be driving our vehicles globally in the world in the years to come? It's going to be fuel cell, right? That'll be some of the answer. But the IC, the internal combustion engine, is not going away. We still have 20, 25% efficiency to gain out of the internal combustion engine. Diesel engine, diesel technology. Maybe complete electric vehicles, maybe hybrid vehicles. I think the solution is going to be a combination of all of these. We're getting more and more complexity in terms of our markets, not only where they are, but the demographics within those markets. When we talk about globalization, it hits home to me, such as in this venue, or when I'm sitting in a building, our office in Shanghai, China. I was sitting there earlier this year working on a presentation with a colleague of mine outside of General Motors. I'm sitting in a General Motors building, in an office, in a Chinese building designed by an architectural firm out of New York, built by Chinese and Japanese engineers, designed by an architect who grew up and was educated in Europe, working for an American company, speaking English, collaborating with a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, who was an Indian national, who is now residing in Shanghai and had worked for many years with Infosys, working on a Dell laptop. What do national boundaries mean to me? This is the globalization that's happening. This is the opportunity that presents India and other countries around the world to step into, and that we are stepping into. The more we can do to achieve flexibility in our manufacturing system and processes, the more competitive we can be. For today's talk, I want to talk just a little bit about GM, in case you don't know some of the details about us. I'll talk a little bit about R&D, hope to give you a little sample of what we're about at R&D, because that's the focus of what I want to present today. And then why India? I want to pose the question, why India? Why are we here in India? Okay, why does it make sense for us? Why is it good for us to be here as a global company? And then I want to close by trying to illustrate some of the key, and identify some of the key, what I see as key global technology challenges, key global technology opportunities, and then some concluding remarks. One of the problems that we have is that in developing a global network of technology development, whether it's engineering or research and development, and there are differences between the two, but problems are very similar, is being able to not only just hire the talent, and we all talk about how difficult that is, but to really develop that talent, create a career path for that talent, and integrate it into the company. And that's what we're faced with today. This is what Microsoft talked about in this second quote I read to you from The World is Flat. GM, there was a lot written about GM and its development into, its expansion into India. This quote from earlier this week. I happened to be flying from Delhi to Bangalore and picked up the Times of India. GM is developing quite a bit and investing quite a bit in India operations from many perspectives. From not only supplier development to our engineering staff and our R&D staff, but to our manufacturing facilities as well. We're going to be introducing quite a few new products in the Indian market in the next few years. The previous speaker spoke about the Tavera that was just launched this year. Exciting product that is 85 to 90%, I'll confirm that, 85 to 90% sourced in India. Fascinating, fascinating experiment for us. General Motors, our vision. Well, our vision is simple. We want to be the world leader, we believe we are, the world leader in transportation products and related services. We'll earn our customers' enthusiasm through continuous improvement driven by the integrity, teamwork, and innovation of GM people. And this is why I, in particular, this is why I'm here, this is why I work in General Motors. It's that word innovation. We are about innovation. We are about technology, and that's why globalizing our technology is important to us. We can't do it all in Detroit, or we can't do it all in Europe, or we can't do it all in Shanghai. Okay? We work on a world stage, and we have to understand how to tap and develop that innovation globally. It is indeed a flat world today. Some of the more particulars about General Motors, the world's number one vehicle manufacturer. We've been that way for over 75 years. Really a rather remarkable story that we've been the world's number one seller of vehicles each year for over 75 years. That's not written too often. In 2004, approximately $196 billion in revenue, 8.6 million vehicles sold worldwide, about a 15.4% share of the global vehicle market, market presence in over 150 countries, manufacturing operations in over 30 countries. It's a huge company. The principal products are, of course, our cars and trucks through the different brands listed there, financial services, and our transmissions, as well as engines, diesel engines, the locomotives, we no longer do that. Our worldwide employment is around 350, 340,000 people. These are the guys who run the show, but they're not the gentlemen who make it happen. The people who make it happen are people who work in our Bangalore office in engineering and research, in our Warren office, in our Shanghai office, in our Cairo office, and so on. I illustrate this just to give you, I present this just to give you an idea of how we're structured in terms of how we view the world, Asia Pacific, Europe, North America, Latin America, and then our global processes. Now, one of the problems that any company has is as soon as you set up just about any kind of structure, organizational structure, it often implies, and the company starts building silos around those different blocks. And we've certainly done that. We're in the process of trying to knock down those silos through our manufacturing processes, through our global technology development processes, and marketing and other sources, as well, other activities we engage in as well. This is an eye chart. This is GM's world. These are our facilities. Okay? A lot of people outside the company forget that. They tend to think that, well, you know, we're just all driven by Detroit. Well, certainly Detroit is an epicenter, if you will, and a historical center for our company, but you can see that we are placed all over the world, and we have to make this work somehow through all of these markets. We also, because of this complexity and the variety of markets that we play in, we have a variety of partners and partnerships that we engage in, alliances. If we look at our alliance network, of course, these are companies that we invest in or have invested in. Isuzu, Subaru, GM China, Suzuki. We have wholly owned subsidiaries as well, as was mentioned 2 slides ago, Saab, Holden's, other companies such as that. We have research partners, Hughes Research Labs out of Los Angeles, Umut out of Israel, different suppliers that we have development or alliance strategies with, and that's constantly changing, as well as government agencies, U.S. government agencies, and other foreign government agencies that we participate in. OEM partners with Ford, Daimler Chrysler, Honda, Toyota, some of these stretching back many, many years. Our U.S. car partnership with Daimler, Chrysler, and Ford has been going on for many years. Our Toyota partnership, we have a few partnerships with Toyota. One is 21 years old in our NUMMI plant in California. Strategic partnerships with, say, different providers, suppliers, or associated businesses, such as oil companies or aluminum companies. And then, of course, these are the ones that I work with most frequently, are academic partnerships. Carnegie Mellon, Stanford, Brown, Michigan, Indian Institute of Technology, Shanghai Jiao Tong, and we work in general through our research labs with over 75 different universities worldwide. And again, our challenge is we have to make this all happen. And if we become isolated or adopt an isolation strategy, which we don't, but if we allow our fears to get the better of us and adopt that and a protectionist type strategy, it will make this thing not work. And so we, as a company, we have an image of, say, being very large, of course, and also being very bureaucratic. But what is really interesting from working on the inside is that we do make this work. And we make it work rather well, we think. Not that we have all the answers, far from it. And we're learning in this process, too, of this flattening of the world. But we do have considerable experience in participating in these various collaborations and sharing of technology. This is another chart that was done up a few years ago out of research that tried to map, and I won't go into the details, that tried to map how the different OEMs are interconnected through partnerships. I doubt, sitting back there, if you can see all the lines, but there are a number of different lines there, mapping Ford's, General Motors, Ford's, Daimler Chryslers, Toyotas, Renault, Nissan, and Hondas, and VWs, different alliances and ownerships, partial ownerships, investments, and so on. No, that's okay. That's okay. And a lot of cross